So it is pretty early in the morning right now, raining outside. Oh man, we're supposed to be doing something outside right now, but it's not looking good. So what do? Well, go in the shop. I got lots of things to do in here. Always have some kind of project that I've dreamed up of, some kind of thing that I need to make with some sort of process that I'm not very good at. And so today I'm going to try my best hand at welding some aluminum into a track that I'm going to use to make my own track saw track that is going to be about 18 feet long. So the problem is I can't buy one this long, and I need one. That's the problem. Well, even if I could buy one, it'd be super expensive. I looked at some that are sort of like what I'm trying to build, and it's not exactly the same thing, but they're about $4,000. Now, given they're much more complicated and probably much more precise than what I'm going to build, but this will do. What I'm going to do will work for what I need it to work for. All right, my track is going to be made out of this aluminum tubing. This, I believe, is 1 1/4 square tubing, 1/8 inch wall thickness, or 0.125, if I'm thinking correctly. And the only way that I know is I got this handy little chart. Look at that, 1/8 inch equals 0.125. See, I sounded smart when I said that, but I was just cheating because got this handy little metal gauge that I use. Anyway, so I'm going to be using this TIG welder today. I'm not very good at TIG welding because I just started. Actually, hey, check out this piece. All right, this is like my first TIG outside corner here. I did that last night. I'm pretty happy about it though, to tell you the truth. As you know, me and my brother Eric are big YouTube fans, and I learned lots of stuff from YouTube. I mean, I literally watched, I don't know how many videos about TIG welding. I watched a lot of videos about TIG welding. Especially this guy, Jody from Tips and Tricks Welding.com, I think it is, Weldmonger. You've probably heard of him. I don't work for him, and I don't know him, and he doesn't know me. But I watch a lot of his videos. I love the guy, and he is very good at explaining techniques and things. So that's how I have learned. And literally, I just bought a machine and started trying it, okay? Maybe not the best idea, really, because this is a lot harder than I thought it would be. But anyway, I'm always up for a good challenge. So what the heck, right? If you know anything about welding aluminum, you know that it has to be clean. I am going to use some really dirty looking stuff. Look at it. This has got like algae on it or something. Who knows? This stuff's been laying in the dirt for 10 years. And but I'm going to use, here, look at this little section here. I buffed that real quick. I mean, real quick. That was like super fast. But anyway, I'm going to try this, this buffer wheel. This is like a nylon abrasive soft bristle wheel on this Makita sander thing, and I use that for all kinds of stuff, and it looks like I just found another super awesome way to utilize this machine. It'll clean off all of that dirt and stuff real fast and give me a surface that's like literally already prepped for welding. So I'm gonna brush off all of these pieces that I think I'm gonna use and get them ready. Now, my design for this track is going to be very simple. In essence, it will look like a ladder. It's going to be a ladder style build with little short pieces welded in between two really long pieces. So I'm not going to go into great detail about the design because there's not much to it. I think the hard part is going to be making the fence thing that's going to attach to the saw. And I have a saw that I'm going to dedicate to this track. It's an 8 1/4 inch blade circular saw. I got it from Arlo. He had it laying around for some other jig that he made from the past to make scarf joints in 1/8 inch thick plywood for boat building. So this saw is accustomed to being dedicated to a special jig. So isn't that nice? I'm just going to cut little short pieces. I'm going to put them in between the two long pieces, clamp it together to make sure it's all tight, and then start the welding. This is pretty terrible. I need my chop saw to cut this aluminum. You know, aluminum is soft enough to cut with a carbide, cutoff saw or a skill saw. You can almost cut it like wood. You got to be careful though. There's shards of metal flying off of your blade, so watch out for that. But in essence, you can cut it with a carbide tip saw, and that's what I'm going to do. And that's actually really convenient compared to cutting steel or something on a bandsaw or some other, abrasive cutoff saw. So the problem is I can see my chop saw, but it's back there in a big pile of junk. There it is. Where are you? There you are. Because I have all my stuff in the way. I'll get it. Design on the fly. That is what I'm doing. All right, I have these pieces spread about the width I'm going to make my track, which is only 5.5 inches wide. That's not very wide. Not wide at all. But I'm going to space my ladder rungs, I guess you would call them, every 16 inches. Every red mark on the tape. 16-inch marks. I think that will give it enough rigidity in between a 16-inch section that this won't be able to bend or anything. And if it is able to bend or something like that, or if it's not straight, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and I'll put in diagonal pieces that will triangulate the whole thing so that it might stay straighter. Okay, so I'm going to draw it for you. Let's see if I can do this here. All right, there's one really long piece. There's the other really long piece. Now I'm going to put pieces in between like this. Now this obviously is not to scale. You get the idea. That is going to be my ladder style track. Now, if the track bows like this to the side, this is exaggerated, I hope. If it bows to the side because of the lack of triangulation, then what I'm going to do is I will add pieces in here, like this. See? Now, this is beginning to look like something else that we're familiar with. It looks like a floor truss. And that's exactly why they put diagonal triangulations in a floor truss or a bridge. Because simply having vertical members does not prevent it from flexing. Although I'm going to say this might be rigid enough that it doesn't matter. And there are no stresses on this in this direction, like a bridge or a floor truss, okay? This is going to be laying flat, just like it is right now, and basically having next to no stresses on it. So I'm not really too concerned about it. We'll see how it goes, but if it is just not straight, then I'll need to clamp it into something straight and install these diagonal braces that triangulate and make it absolutely rigid. All right, I have all my pieces prepped. That wasn't too bad. I actually enjoyed it. You might have noticed that I took my shirt off, this long sleeve shirt. When I started using the belt sander, I realized, wow, this looks dangerous because the sleeves were kind of loose and the front part of the shirt, I didn't have it buttoned all the way. And that is just a, that's just a hazard waiting to happen is what it is, because the belt sander will grab a hold of the end of your shirt and suck it in and sand you in some way that you probably wish you didn't get sanded. I think that was the easy part because the welding part is next, and that's the part I'm a little bit nervous about. Let's see, how long have I been using a TIG welder? 1 week. Yeah, about a week. So this should be exciting. Hey, for anybody else out there trying to learn to TIG weld, I feel your pain, and we're gonna get through this together. It's gonna be all right. So we'll hit you up with the welding here in a little bit when I get back. All right, I am beginning to get this set up to weld. Sorry for the noise. My machine makes noise, even when it's just sitting there. If you have it turned on anyway. I've got layout lines here every 16 inches. I'm gonna put these blocks in here. I'm a little bit worried this thing's gonna be floppy. I don't know. I'm not sure. The only way for me to know for sure is just to go ahead and build it. See what happens. I think that's what I'm gonna do. It takes a long time to build up enough heat to get your weld started because the metal transfers heat so efficiently that you're heating up the whole area around the spot that you're welding. Once you get about halfway across your weld, the piece is hot and the metal flows in a lot easier. You can feed rod in and it just soaks it into the puddle. You can actually even let off the pedal a little bit when you get near the end of your weld because that whole piece has soaked up so much heat. It might be hard to see, it's so bright here. I got my first couple of tacks on a couple of pieces. Not the best in the world, but I think it'll stick. Now I'm gonna just keep clamping the next piece, tacking it, clamping and tacking until I've gone down the whole length of the piece. Those are not tacked, those are just clamped down there. And then I'm gonna flip it over. I'm gonna tack the same position on the back side, so I have 4 tacks on each side, and then I'm gonna try to weld it. All right, that went all right. It is all tacked. The big question though is this thing straight? You know, it's hard to see. I would turn this thing off so you don't have to listen to it, but actually I think the torch got so hot there during that I need to leave it on and let it cool. Said some of these got a little bit lumpy, but I'm feeling okay about it. Well, I got to take a break for now. I started doing some of the fillet welds because I wanted to give that a try. Turns out, I think that's easier than doing the tack welds. I also learned it's really hard to feed wire into a weld if you don't have fingers. So, most of the time, I feed the rod with my right hand and hold the torch with my left hand. Although I have switched back and forth, probably 50-50 because I find a position where I can just stick the rod in with my left hand and not have to actually walk it in with my fingers. So I'm going left and right. Right now, I haven't found one that's easy, so I'll just keep trying. Okay, now, I have all the fillet welds done. If you don't know, a fillet weld is this type of weld here. It's on the inside corner of 2 90-degree pieces. The whole thing's done. All the fillet welds. Now I do want to weld the face. You can see I did these 2 right here, and I did them with no filler because I didn't want to build up any weld bead on the surface where the saw is going to slide. I did those too, but I have a problem. These things are cracking. See that crack? No good. That one's cracked too, no good. I thought the weld would just penetrate through the thickness of the material if I turn the amperage up enough and turn the AC frequency down. I thought I could get enough penetration, but it didn't work. And let's look at one that's not welded yet. You can see there's just ever so slight of a groove or a bevel maybe, but it's not enough to get full penetration, to get that weld to get all the way through the thickness of the material. So I have a solution. Well, first I tried this rotary cutter with an abrasive disc on it, but that doesn't do very well in aluminum because it plugs up. You can actually see some aluminum stuck to the disc. It really won't cut fast at all. No good. So my next best bet is my trusty old Makita saw with a carbide blade. Cuts aluminum like a dream. So what I'm going to do is cut a tiny little slot. Each place I want to weld, that'll give me a place for the weld to go. It needs a home. All right, let's have a look at what I did with the saw. You can see, well, hopefully I can get to where you can see better than that. All right, there we go. That one actually went all the way through. That could be a problem because I'm not sure I can do that without blowing a hole in it with a welder, but you get the idea. Wow, yeah, that one really went. That's not what I was trying to do. Let me find one that actually is what I'm trying to do. There. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Okay, that gives me just a good place for the weld to be, you know? That gives the weld a nice little home. Now, I could have beveled my cross piece a little bit stronger, and actually you can see I took the cut out of the long piece of metal. Let me see if I can hold the camera. I took the cut out of this piece because the end of this is prone to blowing through because it takes a lot less heat to melt the edge of that than it does to melt through this edge of the larger piece because of the orientation of it. You know, this corner, an outside corner here, is not very likely to melt through very quickly, whereas the end cut of that piece is. So I tried to favor my cut onto the long piece, and that'll help me a little bit when I weld. All right, I did a few of these here. Not the prettiest thing in the world, but wow, that one really looks awesome. Not. What I'm looking for is, did it weld it, and did it do so without cracking? I think the answer is yes. It is welded, and it didn't crack. I'm gonna sand all these or grind them flat because I can't have anything sticking above the flat surface of this thing that would get in the way of my saw sliding around. So, man, oh man. Just when I was getting going here, I ran out of gas, ran out of argon. So I've done a couple other welding projects before this one, and I guess my little bottle's gone. So off to the welding shop. Okay, back in the shop. Man, I just went to the supply house, I guess, for steel and aluminum welding supply house. They have gas bottles. Man, I could have stayed in there a long time. They had so much stuff. But the guy back there where you go get your material, he didn't seem very entertained by me or anything. And he kind of acted like he wanted me to leave instead of be there. So I just got my stuff and came back home. But whatever. Next time I'll spend some more time in there. Hey, look what I got. Gas bottle, argon. There it is. Got some other knickknacks. You know, welding stuff. All right, this part is all welded out. I'm gonna show you some of my best welds. There we go. That's kind of near the end. That one's not so pretty, but it's okay. It turned out pretty good. All right, do you want to see the worst ones now? There's one. That's one for the books right there. I like that better. I just got to keep working on it. Man, I don't know if y'all are getting tired of looking at this track, but I am. Oh, I got to grind these welds down a little bit. I'm using this blending disc here, abrasive disc, I guess, especially made for stainless and aluminum. So if I'll see if I can flatten these off here and get on to the next step. Man, oh man, this is fun. I am trying to figure out a way to make a little carriage for my saw to actually make it right on this track. Because believe it or not, I haven't even considered exactly how to build the part that goes on the saw. You know, I'm just taking it one step at a time, all right? I got my track, all right? It's there, it exists. I gotta see if it's straight or not, but whatever, there it is. Now, the challenge is to make a cool little carriage that'll attach to the saw base that will allow it to glide down this thing and actually follow the track. So, what do I have so far? Not much, but I'll show you what I'm working on. I have clamped up a little jiggy thingy. Actually, this part right here, this is a 1-inch square tube. That's gonna slide on the outside of the track. And this piece of angle aluminum, it's not angle iron, is it? I wonder what you call it. Anyway, this piece of angle, I am gonna weld to this and try to make that work somehow. You can see I put these notches in here with a chop saw. That allows me to attach this piece of aluminum periodically down the length of this thing. I think that's gonna be a good way to attach it and weld it. Okay, man, this thing, I swear I am in here laughing. Looking at this thing, look at it. I know I'm going crazy now because look at all these clamps. What I'm trying to do is this piece is like gonna guide along the fence or the track. This is gonna be the part attached to the saw. And I'm trying to attach these little square blocks to the fence and give me a place where I can like screw or bolt it to the base plate. I don't want to try to weld to the base plate on the saw because I don't know what kind of aluminum that is. It might not work. I've got one on the front as well. So this block will weld to my side piece and screw or bolt or something to the saw base. Did I say that right? I don't even know. Anyway, I just thought this was hilarious. I know I'm in deep right now and I'm not sponsored by DeWalt. I sure wish I was, but this looks like a DeWalt ad, but it's not. I just have a bunch of their clamps, so whatever. You can start to get an idea though of what this thing might do. I don't know. I just can't stop looking at it, man. This is crazy. I hope it works. Yeah, I'm in deep, all right. And I'm realizing that I'm spending a lot of time on this. Now, I'm not spending a whole lot of money on it because I got the metal for free from a friend. And that's kind of what spun me off into doing this whole thing for real. Even though I thought about something like this for a long time, I really decided to do it for real when I got some free aluminum material. I thought, well, shoot, what do I have to lose? If I mess it up and I have to throw it away, I didn't pay anything for it. So I paid $100 for the saw, and that's really all I have in this thing right now is $100 for the saw. So that's not bad. Whatever. I know this is a lot to take in if you are still watching. Congratulations, you have a lot of patience. All right, this piece is starting to shape up here. Wow, we can barely hold on to it. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's get a look at this thing. I welded these side blocks on. Okay, that's somehow, I'm gonna attach it to the saw with that. I welded all the way around. I ground off the top of my weld a little bit where it was a little sloppy. I cut this curve cut right here with a chop saw. You can see the little teeth marks. I just made a ton of little cuts and then just kind of, you know, smoothed it up a little bit. Doesn't really matter. So the reason I made that, let's see if I can even do it here, is the motor. So it goes on like that. Oh boy, let's zoom out. Goes on like that. It's kind of hard to see, I know. Kind of hard to see, but it's something. All right, we are making some real progress now. I think the end is near. The end is near. I have this other fence-like piece that I made. It's just 2 pieces of square tubing tacked together, and it will go on the blade side of the saw. I think the last step for me here is just attaching a cross piece that's gonna tie the 2 sides together and make it more rigid. I've drilled some holes in the base plate. You can see a drywall screw sticking up through there. That'll get replaced with a real nut and bolt or something. For now, that's all I had just to hold it together. But anyway, I'm gonna bridge the 2 sides together with a bar in the front and with a bar in the back. And I think that's gonna be it. Really, I think it's gonna be done. Well, the real test is gonna be seeing if this thing actually slides down the track or not. I didn't account for any kind of bearings or any kind of wheels or anything like that. I did, however, buy some anti-friction tape like you might find on a real track saw, say like a Festool track saw. They have these like gliding strips that I think they're like bright green. You know, I bought some anti-friction tape. I was gonna apply to the track and to the saw. I was gonna account for the thickness of the tape, but it would have been still experimental. And even in the future, if the tape wore out, I don't know if I could buy the same tape. Maybe I would have to account for a different thickness of tape. So it didn't really seem ideal. So what I decided to do is make the tolerances pretty tight and hope that this thing would just slide. Time to bolt the thing to the thing. Oh man. All right, I'm bolting the, man, what is this thing called? I don't even know what to call this thing. Let's see. It's not the track. Well, that's the track. What is this? The base plate. We'll call it the base plate. Base plate. All right, I'm bolting the base plate to the saw. Yep. Using these 1/4 by 2.5 inch stainless steel. I only got stainless because that's the only kind they had that were like the right kind of shape and size. So I'm just drilling holes. I'll drill a hole right now through this. You can see I got this one in here. Now this is sticking down a little, and that's okay because this part, let me see there, yeah. See, I didn't bother to sink that all the way in because it doesn't matter because it just sticks down in a place where it doesn't matter. So I'm not even gonna flush that. The ones I bolt through the bottom of the saw, however, like I'm gonna countersink. We'll do that here in a minute. I'm gonna countersink these out. I'm gonna pull those temporary screws. These are just drywall screws. I'm gonna pull those out and I'm gonna fit a countersink of this head into the base using this countersink bit. It's pretty handy. Use them all the time for different things. Well, just like almost everything, that was a little bit of a struggle, but it is attached. A-T-T-A-C-H, attach, attach, attach. You can see I left just enough clearance right here for this guard to operate. See that? We're talking, oh, I don't know. I'm trying to look here. A 30-second, I mean, almost touching. I also had to allow for these little, I just call them nubs. These little nubs on the guard, that thing and that thing. They actually stick down below the bottom of the base plate. And so I had to account for that when I was figuring out where on the track it was gonna ride. Kind of a bummer. I thought about grinding them off, but I don't know. I just scooched everything over a little bit. So now it's time to mate this thing up with the track. Mate. All right. So the track exists. The guide that goes on the saw exists. What did I decide to call that? I can't remember. The, maybe the carriage. I can't remember. I need to call it something. Not sure what to call it. So I got a problem. I tried my first rip and it did work, but the track slid around a little bit and it wasn't accurate. You know, it was moving around. You don't want that, right? So why don't I clamp it down, you might think? Well, there's really not a good way for me to clamp it down without the clamp being in the way of the saw. So I can't really clamp it down. That's not gonna work. But what I'm gonna do is put some little like weather stripping strips on the bottom of it. That might give it some traction, a little bit of friction, and help it to stay put, just like the real track saws that you might buy. I'll show you. Also, the aluminum on aluminum kind of way that this works, the way the guide kind of slides on the track, it's a little bit sticky. You know, aluminum doesn't slide very well on itself. It's kind of grabby. So I'm gonna wax it down with some Johnson's paste wax and see if that'll kind of slick it up, make it slide easier. So if I can reduce the friction on the top of the track and increase the friction on the bottom of the track to stick to the board, I think it will work. I do have a last resort though. If that doesn't work, actually my dad had a great idea. I could just weld a couple little tabs onto the track and just use like 1 or 2 nails, probably 2 nails or 2 screws, and just tack it down. Yeah, it would put 2 little holes in my workpiece, but for the most part, for what I'm doing, that's not gonna matter. So that's an option. Yeah, that could work. Now, I have this sitting on a board just like it will be when it's being used. And I actually already ripped this edge, but you can see that this thing is heavy, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's heavy, but it did sort of, with the vibration of the saw, shaking down there, it did kind of wiggle around. So, all right, here we have the Festool track. This is a 10-foot track. That's pretty long, but on the bottom here, check this out, look at that. They've got these little foam strips that just give it a little traction. And usually I don't clamp this down. When I use this, you just plop it down on the piece of wood and it pretty well stays put. That's what I want mine to do. I want mine to do that. Do what that does. Okay, so you can extend these tracks. You can connect multiple pieces of track together. But the way that these attach with these little slots and you slide in a little piece of metal with set screws, the problem is this is so narrow, you have way too much leverage. Like if you're gonna pick this thing up and move it, which you have to do every time you cut a board, you have to pick this up and move it off of your workpiece. That's kind of fragile. And you know, I don't like it, basically, is all it comes down to. I really don't like the way this connects together. I wish it was more robust and more, I wish it was stronger. So it's not, so that's why I don't like it. I feel like I want to, you know, say so much about this, but I figure most people will probably get bored to death of me talking about this, but there's really a lot to it. There's a lot of things about this that I want to say so that you can kind of understand why I would even bother to do this, because, you know, this may seem like a waste of time to some people. And I don't think it is, because, you know, I have a need to rip long boards. That's really what's driving all this, is my need to be able to do the thing. So that's why I made this whole thing to start with. Silly track saw, but I need one. I gotta have it. All right, so what do I have laying around to make this thing work? Well, I've got paste wax. That's good. I also have some of this weather stripping left over from a job. Actually, I have it in brand new rolls. I have a bunch of this stuff, so that might be a good way to go. since I already have it. So I'm gonna apply this to the bottom of the track and apply this to the top of the track. We're counting on two really great things here. There's two really great things we're counting on. We're counting on friction and gravity, okay? Reliable things. This is gonna be so reliable. Friction, gravity. All right, well, this is a big moment for me. I got my track waxed up. Track waxed up? Yeah, that's right. I got the track waxed up. I got some grippy strips on the bottom. I got my saw waxed up. All there is to do now is try it out. It's taken me about 3 or 4 days to make this thing, just kind of here and there, you know. And so there's quite a bit of anticipation here. I mean, what if this thing doesn't work at all? What if I'm a complete failure, you know? Oh well, it's a risk I'm willing to take. And if nothing else, I learned how to weld. So let's do this thing. Let's rip it. Okay, well, I am super pumped because it actually worked. Man, the saw was just gliding down the track with next to no effort pushing the saw. And I tell you what, the track didn't move around either. It totally stayed put. So I'm gonna put the camera on this straight edge and see if you can even see it. But to me, that was a success. And I am so stoked. I tell you what, this is really cool. So let me check out this edge. That is going to be a wrap for the track saw video. I had a really good time making this thing. I always love it when some idea that I have becomes a reality. That really gets me going. I don't know what it is about it, but I think of a thing that I need, and sometimes it doesn't work out, but in this case it did, that I can actually draw or build that thing, and then it exists, and then I can use it. There's just something about the creative process that I really love. Thinking of ideas, modifying things until it does the thing you need the thing to do for you. So that's what happened here. I learned a lot, excuse me. I learned a lot about the aluminum welding process and about friction and gravity. And now I've made something that is useful for me. So that's what it's all about here. I hope perhaps this can inspire you to make something useful that you need out of some stuff you already have laying around or some stuff that you could buy. That's really something exciting, the creative process, designing, building, and that's what keeps me going, really, is always doing something new and stretching my abilities and my mind. And so anyway, that was a big ramble, but that's what it's all about. I hope you enjoyed this video. I sure enjoyed making this video. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you thought it was helpful, and if you would like to see more content like this in the future, that helps us to be able to continue to make videos. So thank you.